Welcome back to the Pearls and Pearls podcast. I'm your host, Peter Kay. I hope you've had a good start to the week so far. It's a new week. We are already halfway through the month. It is the 15th of December today. Well, it's actually the 14th of December at the time of recording, but by the time this episode is posted, it will be the 15th of December 2025. And it is absolutely insane how quickly 2025 has gone by. And today's episode is very much a reflection, a recap. I want to help you to get to a place where you reflect on your life and you start to get in motion. If you've clicked on this episode, I'm sure that maybe there was something in the title that appealed to you. Today, I'm speaking about how to get into motion for 2026, how to break the self-sabotage cycle and resetting your life. And I think it's so necessary. I don't know what your 2025 has been like, but for me, I'd say the first 6 months of the year was a breeze. I eased into the year. And one of the things I did differently this year was not putting too much pressure on myself. I really gave myself a lot of grace this year to just ease into my 30s. Last year when I turned 29, towards the end of the year, I said to myself, do you know what? Next year you're turning 30. Just allow yourself to just enjoy that. I don't know what the next decade of my life is going to be like, but I know that 30 is going to look very different to how my 20s looked. I'm getting older. I'd like to think I'm getting wiser as well, but also the dynamics of my life is going to change naturally. It's a whole new decade. I've been adulting now for the last, well, in theory, 12 years. But I would say I've started adulting when I got married. And I say that because that's when I had to really become responsible. And moving out from living at home, I'd say the last 7 years is when I've really had to adult properly, having responsibility, having to be accountable to someone, having to show up to work, even if I don't want to, because if I don't get paid, I'm going to be on the streets. And I just think that sense of seeing what life is really like, it was definitely a wake-up call for me the last 7 years. And so coming into my 30s, I'm really looking forward to seeing what this next decade is going to be like. Going back to my original point, so 2025, I'm like, how did I get to where I was? See, guys, if you're new to the podcast, you will see that I do go on a tangent, but I'm going to eventually come back to my point. So what I was saying was the first 6 months of the year, I really just eased into it. And this year, I knew that I'd be traveling a lot more than I've ever traveled before. There was one trip that wasn't planned that ended up happening, which was for my friend's birthday. She'd asked me at the beginning of the year if I'd be able to come. And I'm like, girl, I'm there, sign me up. So that was an extra trip that wasn't planned for, but I made it happen. And I'm really, really excited. And looking back at 2026, I'm so glad, especially with how the last, I'd say 6 weeks has been for me. I'm so glad. And I really think that now that I look back on it, I really feel like God inspired me to do things differently this year for a reason, because some of the things that have unfolded in the last few weeks were so unexpected and it just kind of knocked me for six, honestly. But looking back at the beginning of the year and allowing myself to just ease into it, I started off the year going on holiday, went to Turkey with my husband to celebrate our birthdays. I also had like a birthday dinner with some of my girlfriends, and it was really nice. It was one of the first birthdays in a long time that I really just felt just so much love. Not that I've never felt love on my birthday, on previous birthdays, but I'd say that this one was different. Like my friends really showed up for me, and some of like the messages that I received, they like went around and did speeches, and the gifts I received, like I just received so much love and warmth. And even thinking about it now, I'm even getting emotional because honestly, I just felt so much love. And I think for me also, I've always been accustomed to showing up for people, to being there for them. And to, in that moment, have people to do the same for me was just really nice. And I think something that 30s, and I don't know if it's the age or if it's the hormones, I don't know what it is. But one thing I'd say I've noticed since I've turned 30 is I'm definitely a lot more in touch with my emotions. And I thought initially that was just because I was on, it's going to be a little, I don't know if that's TMI or not. But previously, when I was on contraception, hormone contraception, that is, my hormones completely changed. Before taking contraception, I wasn't a very emotional person. I was very much, I wouldn't say I was like a stone, because I wasn't. I have always been someone that's been in touch with their emotions, but I wasn't someone that would cry very easily or be emotional about certain things. But being on the pill really turned me into an emotional wreck. Little things that, like, if I was to watch a movie and something cute was to happen, or even sometimes just scrolling online, I'll watch a video, like maybe somebody did something really kind, or it's sad, or someone's sharing something, and I'm like, oh, this is so sweet. But now that I've been off hormone contraception the last 3 months, I've still found that maybe the hormones are still there and my hormones haven't regulated back, but I'm still definitely a lot more emotional and in tune with my empathetic side than I thought I would be naturally. So it could just be that I've changed, or it could still be the hormones are rebalancing. I don't know. That's to be confirmed. But I say this to say, I am definitely a lot more of a softie than I was. And just allowing, and also now I'm just allowing myself to be in a place where if people want to support me, let them support me. I think sometimes we can complain about people not supporting us or showing up for us. But then sometimes if you take a step back, sometimes you don't actually allow people to help you. And I think for me, that was a problem that I had, because I've always been an independent person, someone that likes to get things done. I don't like to rely on people. And a lot of the time that stems from people letting me down. I would often find it difficult to lean into my community, to asking for help, to talking about what I'm going through, because I just think, what's the point? They can't help me. I just have to do what I need to do. That's been my way of thinking and dealing with things for a really long time, especially in my early 20s. I'd definitely say I've gotten a lot better with it now. But like I said, that birthday was special. It was definitely special. Having that many, I don't remember how many I had in the end, maybe 18 of us, including me, or 16. A few people had dropped out that couldn't make it. But it was really nice. And I'm glad that I did that to kind of enter into my 30s. And I know that most of you listening to this podcast are kind of in a similar age bracket to me. A lot of you guys are, well, now I'm actually lying to myself. I was going to say same age bracket, but technically not. Most of my listeners on average are 25 to 34 or slightly above. I think also 30 or 34, and then it's 35 to 45. Like that is the span of most of my listeners. Outside of that, it's a lot less, but the most common age group that listens to my podcast is 25 to 34. So I know that you can probably relate. You're either in your mid 20s right now, or you're coming towards the end of your 20s. And I know that there is so much emotions that comes with that. I really hope you can't hear the screaming child outside. The soundproofing is absolutely diabolical. If you can hear it, welcome to my area. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going because I'm on a time crunch. But I know that sometimes getting to a certain point in your life or a certain age, you start to reflect even more. And for me, turning 30 was like, I'm just going to enjoy it. I went around the houses quite a bit, but essentially the first 6 months of this year was mainly just traveling, figuring things out, working the day to day, but not putting too much pressure on myself. And I'm glad that I approached this year in that way, because the last 6 weeks, life has been lifing. You know, there's been some unexpected news that I've received, not about myself, but someone close to me, and just having to process that, but also being there for them, having additional responsibilities. It's just been a lot. But now I'm just looking back on it. I'm just so glad that this year I was intentional about having fun, making memories, treating myself, experiencing new things, making time for the people that matter, and making time for myself, just allowing myself to be. Because sometimes I put so much pressure on myself to perform, to do things, to juggle, to do all the things, that I don't actually really take that time to enjoy my life. And also not making everyone else's life my priority, but making time to just be in my own company, to spend time with my husband, but also being by myself, because I've always been that kind of person that I enjoy being by myself, which is why I always say that I'm an ambivert, because as much as I love being around people, I can be extroverted. I also do love my time to myself. I don't know if any of my ambiverts can relate. It just recharges me. Like I can be at home by myself and I will be just fine. Like there's some ones that I talk to, it's like if their husband can't go with them to do something, they won't do it. And I'm thinking, God, that is not me. I cannot relate, because I've just always been accustomed to doing things. If I want to do something and I don't have someone to do it with, I'm just going to do it. And just, yeah, having that time to myself, it really just helps me to recharge. And now coming to the second half of the year, life was really starting to life. Things are changing, things are shifting. And again, I don't know what your year has been like, but one thing that I will say is that life can be very unpredictable. And there's one of two things that I would say that I take from the fact that life can be very unpredictable. One, you have to be intentional with how you live your life. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know I use that word a lot. But honestly, I will die on the hill of talking about the importance of what it means to be intentional with your life. And it's not even just being intentional with certain areas, but just your life in general and how you approach it. And even looking at the experiences I've had over the last 6 weeks, it reminds me of that even more. In some ways, it's in the good sense and also in the bad sense. But really it just stresses the importance to me of the importance of being intentional with your life, intentional with the decisions you make, the relationships you have, how you nurture those relationships, how you treat yourself, how you see yourself, how you manage your finances, how you parent your children, how you are in your relationships, how you show up for yourself and others, being intentional. Because again, life is short. Life is short and life can be very unpredictable. And many times we only value things when we lose them or when a tragedy happens. And I've said this to myself for a long time, like, I don't want to have to wait for something bad to happen or for a tragedy to happen for me to begin to appreciate what I have. And for me, one of the goals that I have for 2026 is really to live a life of contentment. There's a verse in the Bible, I can't remember exactly where it is, but it talks about the fact that godliness with contentment is great gain. And just looking at that, even if you're not a Christian or a believer, really thinking about that is actually so true. Like, godliness with contentment is great gain. There are people in the world that have billions of pounds, of dollars, but they're not content with life. They're not happy. And I think sometimes we often think that we're going to be happy or we're going to be fulfilled when we achieve a certain thing, whether it's having children, getting married, having that specific job, living in that place, traveling the world. There's always something that we attach our contentment with, or we think, once I've gotten to that stage in life, once this has happened, once I've achieved that, once I've grown into this or whatever it is, I'm going to be content, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be fulfilled. And quite often that is not the case. We're chasing our tail. We're constantly moving the goalpost. And naturally, sometimes that's just the way our world works. Things are always moving and changing. But I think it's very much a personal decision to choose to be content, and it's not easy. There's constantly things vying for our attention. We live in a society that's very much based on trends. Things change, even lifestyles change and become a trend, and it's very difficult to go against the grain. It's very difficult to approach things in a different way when it's not the norm. It's not, what everyone does. Like contentment, who even talks about wanting to be content? Like, that doesn't sound sexy. That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound like something you want to save for later. It doesn't. We want to be motivated. We want to be pumped. We want to be empowered. We don't want to be content. But honestly, looking back at my life over the last few years, that's something that I have seen has been missing in me: contentment. I'm constantly moving the goalposts. And I know naturally having ambitions and having a vision for my life, that is never going to change. That is just a part of who I am. And that's just how I function as a human. I need to have something I'm working towards. There needs to be some level of purpose in my life. I can't just walk aimlessly. Like, that's just not me. That's not how I'm wired. But I'm definitely going to work on being more content in 2026. Now, does that mean I won't have goals for the year? No, it won't. But what it will mean is that irrespective of the goals that I'm working towards, irrespective of how I feel or what I'm going through or what the progress looks like, I am going to choose to be content, to be at peace with where I'm at. and just to focus on making progress, whatever that's going to look like, and really just enjoying my present. Because honestly, when you really think about it, life is happening right now. Your life is not in 5 years' time. You don't know if you have 5 years' time. We'd like to think we have 5 years' time, or 50, or even 100 years' time. But the reality is, the most important moment in your life is right now, in this moment. It's your present. And just being intentional with how you navigate that is so key. A few nights ago, I literally woke up at 3 a.m., wide awake. I don't even know why. Until now, I'm still trying to figure it out. But I didn't feel tired. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I guess I'll stay up. And then I had all these ideas buzzing in my mind. And that led me to a finance session that I'll be having next Thursday. So I've devised a finance reset guided finance session, which I will be delivering on Thursday, the 18th of December, 2025 at 7:30 GMT. It's going to be a 90-minute session. It's not going to be your regular degular webinar. If you've joined any of my online sessions before, or you've even worked with me one-to-one in the past, this is going to be a guided finance session. And the reason why I want to make it guided is because sometimes what do we do as humans? We're inspired, we hear something that sounds great, we're motivated, we're like, yeah, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to be better with my finances. And then we go back to the same old habits. And this is why I'm making this session a guided session. I'm going to walk you through step by step on completing your finance reset audit. You're going to leave this session with a better understanding of your relationship with money, but not only having the awareness of your habits, but also being able to start thinking about actionable changes that you can make in order to better your relationship with money and how you approach your finances. You're also going to leave with clearer financial goals, having that clarity that you need, practical tools you're going to receive to help you to get into motion to achieve your goals. So I'm going to send you everything that you need for the session, and all you need to do is show up ready to do your work. And this is really going to help you to prepare your mind for 2026. We've got Christmas coming up. We've got all the December festivities, dry January, because it's dry because most people are broke in January. But this is going to give you that finance reset you need to realign yourself, to rethink about your goals, and to prepare yourself financially for next year. So if you want to leave empowered, informed, and equipped for 2026, then make sure that you register via pearlsandperils.com. All the details will be in the show notes. And the most exciting part, which I'm really gassed about, is that this is designed for all locations. So irrespective of if you live in the UK, the US, Canada, South Africa, wherever you live, Australia, 7:30 GMT, just join me and sign up. It is not a free session. It's £15 or GBP. I'm not sure what that is in your currency. But honestly, one thing I'll say is that it will be a small investment into yourself. And that's it for me. Talking about the finance reset, I just thought I'd put that out there because otherwise I'll forget to invite you. But yeah, I want to invite you. Join me. And if you've got a friend that you think could benefit from this session, or even if you're in a relationship, do the session with your partner. You can both join together, whether you live together or not. You can both get your tickets, join separately, and work through your finance reset, getting on the same page. No gatekeeping, share it with a friend. Before I get into how you can get into motion for 2026, I want to talk about some of the common pitfalls that we make when it comes to approaching a new year. Now, the first one, which I am definitely guilty of, and maybe you are guilty of it too, is setting endless lists of goals. When I look back on it now, I was doing the madness. I was really setting myself up to be overwhelmed. I would have so many goals. I would have a goal for every area of my life, and I wouldn't just have one goal. I'd probably have 3 or 4 for each category of my life, and that is a lot of goals. And when I look back at it now, I'm just thinking, girl, no wonder you was feeling how you was feeling. There was so much pressure I was putting on myself, and it wasn't realistic. So yeah, so maybe you're guilty of that too. That's definitely one of the common pitfalls: setting endless goals, having so many goals to work on. And then you have people that are at the other side of the spectrum, where they set no goals at all and they're completely winging it. Intention is not in their vocabulary and they're just going with the flow. And I think there is a healthy balance of being a planner, but also being sporadic and spontaneous. But I think when it comes to certain areas in your life, a bit of intention is required. And I think that's also a pitfall that some people fall into. They're just winging it. And sometimes when you wing it, you end up in a place that you don't want to be in. The third pitfall and common mistake that we often make is waiting until January to get started or waiting for a new month. How many times are like, oh yeah, I'll start on the first of the month, or I'll start on Monday, or I'll start on Sunday. We're always moving the goalposts, or sometimes mentally we feel like we need to start afresh. And the reality is, whenever you're trying to build a new habit, change something, you're going to mess up. You're going to fall off the horse. Things will happen that you may not have planned for or may not have even thought would even happen. That may take you off track. But the key thing is getting back on track. You don't have to wait till the beginning of the week. You don't have to wait till January 1st, 2026. You can actually start now. You can start whenever you decide to start. The key thing is to just start. There is no optimal time to start, but starting is the important factor. And if you do pause, you do fall off, it's just getting back on track. And I think that's the most important thing. So that's another pitfall. Also, and I think it kind of leans into, actually, before I say the next one, it's when you're often that person that you say to yourself, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to start this diet, I'm going to quit smoking, or whatever it is that you say to yourself and you don't end up doing it. It can often put you into this self-sabotage cycle because you say these things to yourself, but you don't believe you're actually going to do it because I've said many times I'm going to save, or I've said many times I'm going to clear my debt, I'm going to take control of my finances, I'm going to start being more responsible, I'm going to start planning more, I'm going to start doing this or that, or whatever it is that you've said to yourself. And every time you say something to yourself and you don't fulfill it, you start to then not trust yourself a little bit more, or you don't actually believe the confidence that you have in yourself, it declines. And I think that's why you do have some people where they never set goals, because in the past they've set goals and haven't achieved them. And to avoid disappointing yourself, to avoid feeling like a failure, you just don't even bother trying, because why would I want to feel like a failure? And these are all very valid thoughts and ways of thinking, but they're not often very productive ones. And so sometimes we so easily put ourselves in a self-sabotage cycle. And as a result, we're not able to make the changes that we want to make. We're not able to see the progress that we want to see because we sabotage ourselves before we can even get there. And the last pitfall that I want to focus on, which I'm sure we are all guilty of at some point or with some area of our life, and it is motivation. Relying on motivation to get things done. I think one thing I've learned in my 30 years is that if I just wait to feel motivated, I'm never going to do anything. It's just not going to happen. Well, let me rephrase that. Relying on motivation to get difficult things done. Nobody needs motivation to do the things that we consider easy. No one needs motivation to do the things that we enjoy doing. We naturally do those things. We have all the willpower and the push to get them done. It's the hard things that we need the motivation for. And a lot of the times it's not going to be there. But something someone said to me a few years back was about the whole term of motivation. And she said, it's all about having the motive to act. And that really stuck with me because there are times when I don't feel like doing the hard things. I don't feel like going to the gym. Like I've really been trying to get back into the habit of working out regularly again. And it's been really difficult actually, because I've not been making it a priority. I've been focusing on other things. I very much function at certain times. And when I'm not able to do something within that time period, it's very difficult for me to do outside of that. But I've really been thinking about how I function and how I'm most productive and what's most optimal for me. And when it comes to working out, the morning is the optimal time for me because I've done my workout and I can go about my day. Once it passes 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I'm not going to go to the gym. But one thing I found though this week or last week, I actually did a home workout after I got home from work. And I was so proud of myself. Granted, that's probably not something I'll be able to do all the time, if I need to make dinner or whatever, but it showed me that I can function outside of my optimal zone. But that really did require motive to action on my part. I was not motivated. I was not like, let's go, girl, let's do it. I was not. That was literally just me using my willpower to get things done. And I think that's the key thing that I really want to stress before I go through some of the steps to help you to get into motion for 2026 is that you need to have the motive in order for you to act. Sometimes we want to get things done, we want to do the hard things, but we don't have a clear motive of what we're actually trying to work on. And there are going to be times when you don't feel like it. We go through this all the time. If we're just going to rely on that dopamine hit to get things done, we're never going to do any of the hard stuff in life. We are just going to be very unproductive and just hoping for the best. But remember, it's all about having the motive. Firstly, in order for you to act, you need to have a motive, you need to have a purpose, you need to know what it is that you actually want. And sometimes we're not clear on what we want. And as a result, it's difficult to act. It's difficult to actually have the will and the drive to work on something or to work for something when you're not really that sure what you actually want. So next time you think about motivation, I want you to think about having the motive to act, having the drive to follow through. There will be times this comes naturally and it's easy, and there'll be times when you really are going to need to lean in and you're going to need to find the motive somewhere, and that's going to give you that push. The steps to getting into motion. This is applicable to any area of your life, not just finances, but I think you can take this and apply it to whatever it is that you want to work on, and also just to look at your life holistically. So first stage, I would say, is the review stage. This is where you're going to identify firstly where you are at, and then you're going to start looking at where you're going. So I think it's really important. And this is also sometimes a part that we overlook, because sometimes we don't want to actually be real with ourselves, and we don't want to see our reality. We don't want to have that difficult conversation with ourselves, that sit down, that, that come to Jesus moment. We don't want to do that, because sometimes it can be hard when you are in a place that you didn't foresee yourself being in, or you're not quite happy with where you're at. When things are going great, who doesn't want to reflect and tick off and show all the things that you've accomplished? But when it's the other side of the spectrum, where you aren't in the place you want to be, or maybe you're in a situation where you are grieving a life that you thought you'd have. Maybe you thought your life at this age that you're at right now would have looked completely different. Maybe there's certain things you thought you'd have achieved by now that you haven't achieved yet, or even feel so far away. And when you're in that place, it can be difficult. When you feel stuck, when you feel unsure of where you are, and you're trying to just figure out your next steps and things are not clear, it can be very difficult and murky to work through. But this is why the review stage is very important. We live in a world where we are constantly bombarded with information. There is always a tip here, a trick there. There's always so much information, what's happening in the world, and what you need to be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And granted, I'm one of those people, I'm sharing the content with you. But but even, in our day-to-day lives, we're reading things, we're reading the news, we're consuming so much information that sometimes it can get overwhelming. Sometimes even the things that you think that you want are just being shaped by the information that you're taking in. And this is why I think it's important to review, to pause, to turn down the volume of all the voices that are around you, and really take a step back to look at where you're at, review your life, look at all the areas, your relationships with others, your relationship with yourself, your health, your fitness, your faith, your career. If you have children, your relationships with your children. Just really looking at your life holistically, really just being transparent and objective with yourself, which can be quite hard to do, because sometimes we lie to ourselves, and sometimes that can be a defense mechanism, a way of us coping and dealing with things. But really just take that step back to identify where you're at, and then you're going to look at, where am I going based on the direction that my life is currently going in, based on what I'm doing right now, the results that I'm seeing, the progress I'm making or lack thereof, am I on track to building the life that I desire for myself? Am I on track? If I'm on track, what are the things that are keeping me on track? What is working for me? If I'm not quite on track, what isn't working? What's the biggest pain point for me? What am I struggling with? What's the sticking point? What isn't working? Really trying to go deeper and not just looking at the surface. The other aspect, which I think is really important at this review stage, I actually think it's one of the most crucial parts of this, is looking at your habits. Are your habits aligned with the goals that you have? A lot of the times we have the goals. Most people don't struggle with making goals. They struggle with the habits that they have. They struggle with breaking habits that they really want to change and struggle with building habits that they desire to have. And so I want you to think about, are your habits aligned with your goals? Irrespective of what the goal is, look at the habits you currently have now, not the ones you would like to have, but the ones you currently have now. Are they aligned with the goals you have? And if they don't align, that's the thing that you need to focus on the most, because your habits, the systems you have, the way that you approach things, your mindset, and the actions that you take are going to have a huge impact on your ability to achieve those goals that you have. And then the last thing actually at the review stage that I want to get into, we don't often think about this, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot more now in my aim of working smarter, not harder, and all that good stuff. It's thinking about, what is your capacity? Do you have the capacity right now in your life to work on those goals that you've set? Because maybe you have the desire to do it, you even have the motive to act, but maybe right now you don't have the capacity. Maybe right now there's so many things going on, you do not have the capacity to focus on all of these goals or even to focus on one. Maybe right now, all you can do is just get by. Just focus on the day to day. Just focus on your priority tasks. But also factoring and really thinking about that capacity side of things is really important. Do I have the mental capacity right now? Do I have the emotional capacity right now to work on these goals? Do I have the financial capacity right now? And depending on your answer, this is going to help you to then move on to the second thing that I think is really important to help you to get into motion. But before I get into that, I do want to stress, if you don't have the capacity right now to work on your goals, that doesn't mean you can't do anything. I would just say you at that stage just need to then prioritize what is most important to you. Even if you're just going to focus on one goal for the next quarter or one goal for the next year, even, and you're just going to put your time and energy, however much you have of that, into just that one goal. So looking at your capacity when you are devising your goals and when you're deciding on what you're going to put your time, effort, energy, even your money into. Second thing to get into motion, clarity on your vision. A lot of people, you do not have clarity. You think you know what you want, but you don't. Getting clear on your vision for your life is so important. And one thing I want to stress is that your vision can change. When I look back at some of the things that I wanted in the past, or how I even thought my life would look like, there's certain things that I wanted that no one could have told me otherwise. I do not desire those things anymore. So having clarity on your vision, and also understanding that that vision may change as you grow, as you progress, as you even experience some things in life. Those things can influence on the vision that you have for yourself. And this is why it's important to have these reviews, to have these resets, to allow you to really look at those goals that you have and think about whether that still aligns with the person that you are right now, or if that still aligns with the person that you are working on becoming. Because sometimes it doesn't. And that is okay. It's also very much okay for you to say that, you know what, I don't want that anymore. I thought I did. I thought that's what I wanted. I thought that's the career I wanted to do for the rest of my life, but it's not anymore. I want to change. Give yourself permission to pivot. Give yourself permission to change, to evolve. Don't just put yourself in a box. A lot of the times we do that because we do it with other people. People that have the freedom and are empowered to change and shift are quite often people that give other people the grace and space to do so. But when you are someone that's very rigid and you feel like everything is black and white, a lot of the times you don't allow others to move in the gray area, because that's not how you function, that's not how you see the world. And I think it's important to give yourself permission to be multifaceted, to grow, to evolve, to make mistakes, to learn, and also even sometimes to be humbled and say that, you know what, I thought I had it all figured out and I don't, and that is okay. So clarity on your vision, looking at your alignment and whether the way you're living right now aligns with what you desire for your future. And then thinking about setting goals that aligns with that, goals that align with your values, goals that align with your priority, and really thinking about, what is my ultimate goal in life? What do I want my life to look like? What are the things that give me joy? What are the things that are important to me at my core? Really thinking about that. And then thirdly, breaking your goals down. So you've set your goals, or you've already had certain goals you're working on, breaking those goals down. One thing I'd always suggest, the tip I'd always give, is focus on your short-term goals first. The way you need to structure your goals is that your short-term goals will ultimately lead you towards working towards the long-term goals that you set for yourself. So breaking those goals down and focusing on those short-term goals first. Doing it in a way that once you achieve those short-term goals, they're then going to propel you forward to achieve the things you're working towards in the long term. And having a plan. Some people are great at creating plans, that comes easy to them. Others, it's a struggle. Whichever way you are, it's a skill, it's an art, you can learn it. You know, we've got all these resources. You've got the internet, you can use your chat GPT, you can use your Gemini. There's so much resources we have available to us. And also, feel free to drop me a DM or an email. I'm happy to help you put a plan together. But you're not just going to create a plan. The plan is one thing. The thing that you need to do in order to help you to get into motion is also to start thinking about, like I said previously, what are some of the actions that you need to take in order to achieve those goals? What are some of the habits that you either need to develop or that you need to continue to nurture? Or even, what are some of the habits that you need to work on breaking that may be impacting on your growth and your ability to achieve your goals? And then systems. We don't think about systems enough. When we're at work, we think about systems. In business, we think about systems. But in life, we don't think about systems enough. What are some of the systems in your life that will help you to achieve your goals? Whether that's planning out your week, whether it's having a physical planner, if that's your bag, or having a digital planner, using your calendar on your phone, maybe having a big physical planner that you can put on your wall, you can write things down. Having a system for how you get things done that works for you. And sometimes you may have a way of working that works great, but with different seasons and transitions in your life, you will often need to evolve and change those systems as well. And it's just about being agile and being able to identify when something's not working and actually taking a pause, taking a step back, and okay, it's time for a reset. And giving yourself that space to reflect and just to do things differently. Again, pivoting. And the last thing that I'm going to say, so we've had the review stage, clarity on vision and realignment, breaking your goals down and having a plan, reviewing and resetting. This is going to be something you need to do on a regular basis, because too often we fall into the pitfalls. We make the goals, we make the plans, we get into motion, but we're not reviewing as we go. So you're going to review and you're going to reset. You're going to review and you're going to reset. Whether that's going to be something you do on a quarterly basis, bi-monthly, monthly, I'd definitely say at bare minimum, doing this quarterly, just reviewing, seeing how things are going. How are things working out? Am I making progress? What am I struggling with? Am I doing the things said that I would do? Has my capacity changed? Do I need to get some professional help? Do I need to pause some of the things that I'm doing? Do I need a second opinion? Really just taking that time to look back, review on things are going, and to reset. This is one of the key steps we often overlook, reviewing and resetting, actually reviewing how things are going. Not just wait until the end of the year when there's not much you can do about it, but making it the habit of regularly reviewing your progress, how things are going, also reviewing your systems as well, and not just seeing it as something that is super daunting. I know it can be daunting, but just removing the emotional attachment to how you feel about yourself based on your goals. Whether you are super productive, whether you achieve all your goals or not, that does not remove the worth that you have. But sometimes, too often, we attach our value and our worth to what we're achieving and what we're doing, as opposed to who we are. And I think that's sometimes why we can be avoidant to do things like that, because we don't want to be challenged. We don't want to see ourselves through that lens. Those are the steps I'd say are really important to help you to get into motion. I hope that you found this episode helpful. I hope that something I've shared today will inspire you to get into motion for 2026. If you want 2026 to be different, then you have to be different. You can't just keep saying the same thing, saying, oh yeah, it's going to be my year. Or maybe you don't even say that no more, because that's another thing we probably need to talk about. Some of you guys have given up on life. Some of you have already given up. And whether you're 17 or 75 years old, do not give up on your life. Where there's life, there's hope. And I know that's easier said than done. And it can be difficult to actually believe that. But I really want to encourage you that regardless of where you're at, if this year has been an amazing year for you, soak it up. I love that for you. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate with the people in your life. If it's been a terrible year for you, I want you to reflect. I want you to think about what's at least one good thing that's happened to me this year. What's something I'm grateful for? Who is someone I'm grateful for? Maybe the who is yourself. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's God. I don't know. Take some time to reflect. And if you have been saying that you want a finance reset, you want to take control of your finances in 2026, then join me Thursday. Remember, 18th of December, 2025. So a guided finance session. I'm going to guide you step by step on completing your finance reset audit. All the details are in the show notes, so you can sign up there. And remember, we're not gatekeeping this year. We're going to share. So share this episode with a friend. One thing I'm working on, and I need you guys to work with me because this is our podcast, okay? I know I'm the host, but this is our podcast. I want to ensure that I'm adding value, that you're enjoying the episodes. And one thing that I'm going to request from you is if you've enjoyed today's episode and you haven't already left a review or a rating, then please do so. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, leave a rating or review if you're able to do so. I'm just going to ask you for just a little extension. Share this episode. If you have social media, actually, do you know what? You don't even need social media. You can even start sharing on WhatsApp now. Share this episode. If it's helped you, if it's inspired you, please share. It makes such a difference. One of my goals for 2026 is I want to, I'm saying it because the same way I'm telling you to get in motion, I am working on getting in motion myself. 2026, my aim is to start monetizing this podcast because there's so many things I want to do, but guys, I need the money to be coming in to do it. I want to be able to invest back into my community, to invest back into my listeners. And so I need the money to do it. So 2026, the aim is to monetize the Pearls and Perils podcast. And in order for me to do that, I need you guys to be sharing. You can't keep the episodes to yourself, okay? But thank you for listening. This is a lot longer than I was planning for. But I hope that as we slow down over the next few days and weeks, I pray that this rest of the month will give you the clarity that you need. I pray that you'll have the space and the capacity to just take this time to rest, recharge, and to realign for 2026. I would love to know any topics you want to see me cover in future episodes because I need to start planning out my episodes for 2026 because we are working back on our consistency. I've already got the next episode recorded. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about my strategy to having over £100,000 invested by the time I'm 40. So if you want to get into my tea, into my finances, I'm going to be sharing that. And also the announcement I said at the beginning is that the next episode is going to be a visual episode. So if you do like looking at a visual, I'm going to be there on your screen. You can watch on YouTube or you can still listen on Spotify, but the video will be uploaded as long as I don't have technical issues. But regardless, that's going to be the next episode. So join me. I'll be back with you next Monday. Have a great rest of your week. And until then, I'll see you in the next episode.